Oh, I have three. Calvin, hi. I have extra.
Are those on everyone's seats?
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's so wonderful to see all of your faces filling up our spaces here at TIOH. I'm Rabbi Calvin. This is Rabbi Michelle, Rabbi Mari. We have Shelley Fox, our cantorial soloist. James Harper is joining us on piano this evening, and James Schmidt is helping us stay connected to all those in the virtual space. On this Shabbat, where we're welcoming in new members, where we're recognizing the help that is needed for refugees, let's begin by turning to one another. We have our name tags on. Turn to a neighbor, maybe someone you didn't come here with. Say Shabbat Shalom, introduce yourself, say hello. Beautiful. And so here at TIOH, we have a slogan. Perhaps you saw it on the way in. Perhaps you saw it on the back of our pamphlet that was on your seat. It says, "Welcome home." We believe that. We believe that this is a place that we are building together. All of the love that we want to see in our world, all of the unity that we want to see in our communities, it starts here. It starts here in this home. And so we want to offer a prayer. You may have had a sheet on your chair as you walked in. If not, we invite you to share with a neighbor, perhaps someone you just met. It's a poem by Robert Bernardo titled Here. And I'll read the non-italicized regular font. And if you all could please join, and those at home as well, I believe a PDF will be dropped into the chat for you to join us as well. So I'll begin, and then you'll follow along in the italicized. Here, by Robert Bernardo. When the world is about to crush me with all of its weight, I find safety here.
When people have been too cruel because of their ignorance, I find compassion here.
When my government tries to silence me, I find my voice here.
When I feel a sense of helplessness during these uncertain times, I find peace here.
When I'm lost and tossed about in the day-to-day maze of activity, I find direction here.
When loneliness slowly creeps into my life like the evening mist, I find community here.
When I feel isolated at times, I find comfort here.
When friends seem nowhere to be found in the daily grind, I find good friends here.
When I sometimes lose sight of what I can do for my community, I find purpose here.
When I feel that my family is scattered hundreds of miles away, I find the nearness of family here.
When the cacophony outside is too much and I need to be soothed, I find beautiful music here.
When I run around and take the simple things for granted, I find meaning here.
When I am gone and I have left only my name, I know that I will be remembered here. Welcome home, everyone. We join together, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 11, page 11.
Bachem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Hamlachim,
It's our absolute honor to invite up the creative, passionate, and committed social justice core team here at Temple Israel of Hollywood to light our Shabbat candles this evening. So if I could please invite up Francine Tansey, Ada Gorn, Allison Doretsky, Helene Ross, Phyllis Klein, Alana Cohen, Andrea Rothschild, Jody Litvak, and Sophie Sartain. And anyone else, I suppose.
Absolutely.
Anyone else that I may have left out, come on up. Social Justice Core Team. Thank you for being here. Chris Bubser, Elise Pallenberg. Somebody, yeah.
Why'd they look at me? I don't know.
Past president.
Ex-president.
Down here?
Sure. Let's see if that works.
Wait, this is. I just got here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat.
Thank you. On page 22, 6 lines from the bottom.
יעלו שדי בכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי בכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 אז ירדנו כל עצי יער אז ירדנו כל עצי I'd like to ask Alyssa and Gus to please rise. Yeah, why don't you come on up, actually. So Alyssa and Gus were among the very first congregants here I met. We actually started chatting while I was still in Arizona. And they are getting married in a few months. But, right? So that's great.
Yeah.
And on this special occasion of having dear family visiting, we wanted to take a moment to bless them here in the community. So I'll start with the words of our tradition. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah. May the God who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, hu yivarech et hachatan v'hakala. May God bless this bride and groom. V'yatzliach et darkam asher yalchu ba mehayom v'hala, and make their road successful, the road that they walk on from this day forward. Yachdav yimtza'u tamid chen v'chesed be'enei kol ruehem v'yizku levavchem Beit Yisrael l'Shem u'letehila v'hi shalom b'bayit v'shalva v'hashket b'libotam kol ha'yamim asher hem chayim al ha'adamah. Together, may they find always graciousness and goodness in the eyes of all who find them, who see them, and may they merit to build a house in Israel for goodness and for glory, and may there be peace in their home and calm and tranquility and calm, it's another word for calm in their hearts, all the days that they live on this earth. Now, here's my favorite part of this blessing. Ve'et hashoshvinim ve'et kol hayoshvim po, hu yivarech bechol tov, which means everybody that they know and everybody who's sitting here, may they be blessed also, which is our tradition's way of saying, your happiness and your love spill out onto all the people you know and even the people you don't know. That the blessing of the two of you coming together is actually a blessing for every single one of us. It's our honor and our pleasure to just simply be in your presence as you bring your lives together. Where am I? Okay. V'yarich yimehem b'ne'imim, may their days be lengthened with goodness. V'yishlach bracha v'atzlacha b'chol ma'aseh yadehem, and they may be blessed with blessing and success in all their days. Im kol Yisrael achechem v'nomar amen, and along with all of Israel, and we say, Amen. Amen. We're going to do one more quick blessing, which you're going to write. I'm going to start it. And if there is something that you want to call out, something that you wish for this beautiful couple, maybe you have a few years of experience being married that you might draw on to think of something to wish them, or maybe you don't. But if somebody already said it, that's okay. More is even better. Just call out what you wish for them. Gus and Alyssa. May the God who blessed our ancestors bless you with Was that somebody in your family?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good communication.
Yeah. Patience.
And goodness and delight and joy and wonder and healing and hope. And we say, Amen,
Amen.
and Mazel Tov.
Yes.
And we're going to keep that joy as we begin to welcome the Shabbat bride.
Lecha dodi likrat kala penei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yanadai 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 penei Shabbat nekavela. Lecha dodi likrat kala yanadai 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 penei Shabbat.
remain standing as we turn to page 36 for Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Lai, 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 lai. Lai, 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 lai.
You may be seated.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך.
With the words and music behind us of this beautiful prayer, Ve'ahavta, so important in our tradition, I'd like to ask all the new members to please rise. So first of all, not going to say old, current members, let's all just give a little welcome with our fingers or our hands or our hearts. It's really so meaningful to have you here in our community. And what I want to say is that this prayer is about the commitments of being a Jew. It's the way that we know you can be a Jew just by being, but to get the fullness of the richness of being a Jew, you have to live it. You have to make certain commitments. The prayer is about bind them as a sign upon your hand and speak them to your children and all the things that we do with the commandments, with the ideas that we have from God. And here you are, having made a major commitment to TIOH. And I want you to know that we will never take that for granted. We understand what that means to you and your family and in your life. And I want to say that we're making a commitment to you also. And that is to be a partner in whatever journey your soul is going on. We want to be with you as you share the highs of what life has to offer, and as you walk through the hard times too. We want to be part of your team. We want to be part of your family. So we are profoundly committed to being here for you, to working with you to build community, and for all of us to working together to repair the world out there that we know is so broken. So, dear new members, please, I'm looking at you now as a group of people. Please, 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 in the coming days, weeks, months, and years, and for the rest of our lives, let's make sure we're on a journey of getting to know one another better. All of us on the clergy, all of us in our board and our leadership in our community. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for casting your lot with TIOH. It means the world to us, and we welcome you to our community. You can be seated. Thank you.
Page 39.
We turn now to page 44 as we rise for our silent Amidah.
Sometimes it's challenging to know how to add onto our Amidah, our silent prayer, with our own words. Sometimes we think that the words in the prayer book is what we should say, but actually, a complete prayer isn't complete without our own words. And after this week of such difficulty and turmoil, such sadness, such feelings of out of control, after a week of witnessing illness and people running away and depression and confusion, we feel like Moses just crying out, El na rafan Allah. Please just heal her, heal him, heal our world, heal our city, heal our families, heal our relationships, heal each one of us. El na rafan Allah, God, please send healing. Page 239. So the fourth prime minister of Israel, Golda Meir, she was born in Ukraine. She once said about war and leadership that any leader who does not hesitate before sending young men and women to war doesn't deserve to be a leader. These past 2 weeks of war have been a test of leadership. Our U.S. leadership, Vladimir Zelensky's leadership, Putin's leadership, the world's leadership. And I have to say, I have been struggling, I imagine with so many of you, figuring out what my role is now. Right? Okay, so I'll write a check. I've written a check. I've given money to the people in Ukraine, to humanitarian aid. Okay, so I know that our senators are doing what they should be doing and they're on our side. But I'm wondering, are my grandchildren going to say to me, so what did you do, Ma? What did you do, Grandma? Right? Are they going to look at us like we looked at the people in the 1930s in America and hold them accountable? Really, you learn about who a person is, who a country is, when we're under pressure. And it's incredible, Zelensky, how he's led. 44 years old, married, a father, a fellow Jew. He's inspiring his citizens to defend their country, to uphold values of democracy, and we are seeing how precious that is when we hear about how in Russia the media shut down, the TVs, the radio, the newspapers, people who are protesting are being thrown in jail. And we also know that war is a part of life, right? You can sing Ecclesiastes to me just like I can sing it to you. There's a season for everything, a time for right, a time for war, and a time for peace. But that doesn't make living through war easier. War is simply horrific. People of all ages are killed and displaced. I just learned this week that the average time a person stays as a refugee, if they're a refugee, is 17 years. And if they flee during war, it's 25 years. And there's unimaginable emotional trauma that's passed down generationally through our DNA. Lands and buildings are destroyed, and our values, like democracy and everything that goes along with it. Tonight, we're going to hear from 2 temple members who left their respective countries all around the United States. This is called Refugee Shabbat. And though these 2 people we're hearing from are not necessarily refugees, we wanted to invite them to talk about their experience leaving the country of their birth and coming to a new country. And then we're going to hear from Francine Tansey, who's representing our Social Justice Corps, who's going to talk about what we can do to help support a refugee family from Afghanistan. But before we hear from our members, I wanted to just put Ukraine in a little bit of a context. And I'm not going to tell you what you can read in the New York Times. And this isn't about us as Jews. This is not a war about Jews. I don't want to make this ethnocentric. But I do want to place Ukraine in a context for us Jews. First of all, a lot of people say that Ukraine is filled with a bunch of anti-Semites. And yes, there were pogroms in 1919, and there was a lot of hatred before that. And the Ukrainian nationalists and fascists collaborated with the Nazi regime, especially in the summer of 1941. Yes, that is true. However, it's also true that 500,000 Ukrainians fought the Nazis, and the first person to liberate Auschwitz was a Ukrainian. Ukraine was also the birthplace of Hasidut, of Hasidism, in the 1700s. Odessa in the south was a bustling center where Nachman Bialik, Achad Ha'am, and Jabotinsky were all born, great writers and visionaries. Kiev was the birthplace of not only Golda Meir, as I mentioned, but also Shalom Aleichem. And the fact that a Jew was elected in Ukraine in a democratic election in 2019 is amazing. This couldn't have happened in any other Eastern European country, including Poland and Lithuania, never. Second thing I just want to debunk. Some people think that modern Jewish life in Ukraine is minimal. Also not true. Yes, before World War II, there were 750,000 Ukrainians, and the current estimate is somewhere, the real estimate was until a week and a half ago, something like 100 to 200,000 Jews in Ukraine, which was an active and diverse community. Jews often flew to Israel, which was only a 3-hour flight. They have the largest JCC in the world, called the Menorah Center. They have a Camp Ramah there. They have some of the best kindergartens in the country. The Hillels are very popular on the university campuses. Birthright sends many kids to Israel from the Ukraine. And finally, there are 15,000 Ukrainians who also hold Israeli passports. 15,000. And a lot of those Israeli Ukrainians are fighting in the war right now, and there will probably be many more. And last Shabbat in Tel Aviv, there was a protest at the Russian consulate with 20,000 Israelis protesting the war. Here in Hollywood and at Temple Israel, we actually have a bunch of Russian-speaking Jews. And I've learned that Russian-speaking Jews don't often call themselves Russian or Ukrainian, but simply Jews. And I heard such a beautiful example of that today. It was heartbreaking when Dr. Sergei Rishenko, who's a professor at Johns Hopkins, and he is both of Russian descent and Ukrainian descent, when he was asked, what's it like for you to live today in this time, he said it's like waking up in the morning and remembering that someone you love has died and you've killed them. That's the two feelings he's feeling as both Russian, Ukrainian, and Jewish. And so we hold this evening this sense of tenderness and care and love toward the Ukrainian people, toward the women and children who are fleeing, toward the men who are not allowed to leave their country, who have to protect their country. And we take that compassion and tenderness with us as we listen to our two speakers tonight. First, we're going to hear Aaron Tornell, who is a newish member of our community, and he's going to speak about his experience coming to the U.S. from Mexico. And then our longtime beloved Mitra Shamash, our nursery school teacher, who's going to talk about when she came to America via Israel from Iran. And then at the end, we'll hear from Francine Tanzi about what we can do as a congregation. So Aaron, please come on up.
We are here tonight to honor the Afghani refugee family that TIOH is sponsoring. Well, I am an immigrant from Mexico. Let me tell you about my story. Actually, I grew up in a family of refugees. My maternal Bobe, the grandma, came to Mexico from Poland in the late 30s, very late. Later on, her 3 surviving siblings came to Mexico after the Shoah. So I grew up with Yiddish as my first language. My family was so happy in this marvelous Mexico. The people, the food, very nice. But they were a bit scared of not having the language and not having a circle of protection. They were alone. Well, I had also fears of my own. When I entered high school, I realized I was different from others. I was gay. Others made clear in school I was not liked. There was bullying, and yes, there were beatings. These are difficult memories. I knew I had to escape. My Bobe, to whom I was very near, advised, geh zu den Staaten, meaning go to the US, go to the States, the Staaten. But how? I was only 15 years old. I did not have any resources, as my father had abandoned us. My mother was very poor. A friend of the family went to ITAM, a private college in Mexico. And they sent him to the States. I decided to follow his footsteps. My first step was to work as a tutor for primary school students to save and go to college to ITAM and pay the tuition. At ITAM, I had to be very, very careful about not revealing my sexuality. Sort of, I became an expert in the art of ambiguity regarding my inner self. I entered ITAM. I enrolled in a class with a teacher that went to ITAM, who was very, very well respected throughout the entire country, Pedro. I was hoping maybe Pedro would somehow help me go to MIT. I don't know what was MIT, but people said, MIT, okay. I was surprised when a few years later, he invited me to work for him, which I did for 3 years. This teacher, Pedro, recommended me to MIT and to study PhD in economics. And actually, he helped me get a full fellowship. This was miracle number 1. There you go. I arrived in Boston. This was like a dream of a window to freedom. I arrived in the fall, so the leaves were red. The Charles River was so beautiful. I felt like I arrived in paradise. so beautiful America. But there were challenges. I didn't really speak English. Maybe I don't speak it so well now. And I was lonely and scared. An American family in Boston volunteered to be my guides. The father of the family worked in the post office, and coincidentally, it was just across my school. Nick. They invited me in the weekends for an Italian dinner in the North End. That's where they lived. They brought me to the beach from time to time. I was so impressed how Americans volunteered to help even strangers, just for the sake of helping, just for the sake of tikkun olam. I never saw that in Mexico. Tonight, I think our shul is honoring refugee families. Well, it's refugee Shabbat in the US, finding ways to help them, to support them. So it's very, very impressive. Okay. Well, not all was kindness and honey in the United States. A friend of mine came to visit. And so we went to swim to a lake in a beautiful college a bit west of MIT. A bee stings my friend in the tongue. And his tongue is so swollen that we were worried he was going to die because he couldn't breathe. So we run to the student health clinic. Doctor says, look, this is a private college, and you're foreigners. What are you doing here? Go away. Or, yeah, we were scared, we left. We were lucky, we found a pharmacy, and they helped. But here we come to miracle number 2. That same year, I became a faculty in Harvard University. Some years later, I went for a summer to teach in Berlin. I wanted to see how is Germany, where my family, had to come from. And I met a very nice man from Eastern Germany. Okay, so I invited him to visit LA. As at that time, I became a faculty member in UCLA. He came, and his stay is already 22 years. He doesn't want to go back. My beloved mother, Leah, died very, very young, in 2003. So I looked for a gay shul in Los Angeles and found BCC, Bet Chaim Hadashim. So I told Danny, would you go to say the Kaddish? This was his first time going to a shul. The moment we entered the Bet Chaim Hadashim, Tracy, the wife of Rabbi Lisa Edwards, came to us. He embraced us and made us feel we're part of the mishpoche. The same day. BCC from that day became the glue of our family. My German-born partner, Danny, became very engaged with BCC. He even became the treasurer of the shul. He converted to Judaism. He even made a Brit Milah. Fast forward to miracle number 3. So now we have a 4-year-old Leah. Tio has become our new home, where Leah goes to school. And she comes often to celebrate Shabbat and eat a lot of challah. One Friday, we sat for Shabbat dinner at home. I cooked a very nice Mexican dinner. Leah starts to cry. What's happening, Leah? And Leah says, I want to be married. She continued crying. Thank you for listening. We are so grateful to be part of this community, especially as immigrants from other countries.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Feet down. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi Michelle. Thank you, Zach, for inviting me to this special Shabbat services to talk about my experiences and challenges I have faced while getting settled in the United States. And here is my story. I was 22 years old when I left Iran, which, as you know, it's a Muslim country. As much as I can remember, during that time, I was not threatened as a Jew by Muslims. Thank you. We had a lot of Muslim friends with whom we would interact with mutual respect. However, I had heard the stories from my parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles who had been target of hatred for being Jewish in their childhood. I had just finished college in 1978 when my father decided to send his family, which was my mom, me, and my younger siblings, to Israel temporarily. The decision was made due to unrest in Iran just before Islamic Revolution taking place. We left our homeland with a few suitcases, thinking we will be back shortly after everything would calm down politically. We didn't even say goodbyes to our friends and families. But unlike some of our friends, we were lucky to leave Iran on one of the last El Al flights from Tehran to Tel Aviv. I had heard lots of stories of friends who had to cross the border on horses, in pickup trucks, or on foot in cold winter weather. Some were robbed on the journey, and others were deserted in the middle of nowhere by their guides who had charged them an arm and a leg. While we were in Israel, the situation in Iran got worse, and Iran-Iraq war began. A hard time to cope with it. At this point, we knew we were not going back to Iran anymore. That's when the hard part struck. Leaving one's homeland is not a pleasant experience, leaving behind one's place of birth, the place you were raised, gone to school, from kindergarten to college, friendships built, joyful travels to visit relatives to your parents' birthplace, and so on and so forth. Knowing all that is left behind is none but a load of unforgettable memories. As Israel was not unfamiliar to us, we started our new life there. I started to learn Hebrew in Ulpan. My siblings went to boarding school to learn Hebrew and continue their high school education. Meanwhile, my dad was still in Iran trying to transfer our belongings and assets to Israel. Furthermore, not knowing that what our plans were for the future and when will my dad join us was not easy either. But life was going on, and I decided that I need to start a new career. As temporary resident, we had privilege to learn new professions. So I chose courses in hotel management and tourism, which helped me to find job in hotel industry and later on in travel agency. Meanwhile, I met my husband, whom I briefly knew from Iran, in Tel Aviv. We got married. My son Kobe was born in Israel, and I was pregnant with my daughter Sarah when my husband got a job offer in the United States. And then we decided to move for the second time. I had finished College of English Literature and Foreign Languages in Iran, and my husband was working in a shipping and insurance company. So unlike some of immigrants, we had no language barriers, and we were able to communicate easily. We were granted work permit and legal status for residency within a short time. We were lucky to reunite with our friends and families here. We try to stay close to Persian community, so it will make our settling down in our new home easier. We started to make new American friends through our kids' preschool friends' parents, and later on through our coworkers. As soon as my children were in preschool in Adat Shalom, I started to volunteer in their classes, which led me to become a nursery school teacher and work there for 9 years. Fortunately, by 1996, I was hired by Temple Israel of Hollywood. I was so welcome to this community that on the first month, I felt that I belonged here. And after 26 years, I still believe this is my second home. I never felt as an outsider or immigrant in this place. From the beginning, I felt just like one of you. We were lucky that our kids were accepted to good universities in California, and both are successful in their jobs. We kept celebrating Persian New Year and the Persian traditions along with our Jewish values and Jewish traditions, and we tried to transfer good part of our Persian heritage to our children along with Persian language. Now, looking back at the past 40+ years, I can say that we were given some lemons, and we made the best lemonade out of it. And finally, because you are my second home, I want to share with you that this is a special also Shabbat for me and a special year for me, because my son has found his wonderful soulmate, and he's getting married soon. And I appreciate my family at home as much as I appreciate this family. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As Michelle mentioned, and many of you know, TIOH has a sponsor circle for Afghan refugees, a structure established by HIAS and many other organizations around the nation. As the leader of the TIOH sponsor circle, this experience has been a special privilege for me. It's a way to pay it forward. My parents and uncles and aunts were all Holocaust survivors who came to this country with nothing after being in DP camps for many months. Lucky for them, both sides had a well-established uncle in the United States who sponsored them to come here and help them get their lives started. Most of us are not far removed from being immigrants. Supporting this Afghan family has shown me how much is involved in that process, and I cannot imagine how immigrants manage to do that without it. Despite, there are other resources, but the sponsorship, I'm having trouble saying the word, the sponsorship circle is really an amazing structure for that. It's more personal and hands-on, and for both sides, it's a really beneficial process. Thanks to Highest for giving TIOH and all of us an opportunity to have a hand in supporting a family who had to flee Afghanistan. Now I want to tell you just a little bit about the family. The Yadgari family, Ahmad Zaki, Nargis, and Mohammed Imran, who's 4.5, were hiding in a hotel after hearing the Taliban were combing their neighborhood, asking questions about who was working for or with the Americans. This was in November, 3 months after the U.S. Embassy closed and we had pulled out. They had less than a 24-hour notice that there was a flight for them, and they never returned to their home. They literally came here with their passports and very little else. On that note, I want to thank everyone on their behalf for the outpouring of generosity of this community. First, for the apartment that was generously leased to them at a 50% discount, and then to everyone who donated furniture, furnishings, gift cards, iPhones, laptops. It just went on, and it was fast. I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with them, and their gratitude for all that has been given is palpable and expressed regularly. Zaki has an undergraduate degree in computer science and 9 years' experience in the field. He was working for an American company contracted to do a project for the U.S. Embassy. His wife, Nargis, gave birth to their son at 26 weeks. Unfortunately, Afghanistan does not have the medical advancements that we do here, and there's a lot of catch-up and support that Imran will need. The next big step for the Yadgari family is for Zaki to get a job, hopefully in his field. He's very anxious to start working and be self-sufficient. He has had 2 interviews already that he found himself, despite not having his employment authorization card, which is apparently lost in the mail and floating around DC somewhere. Despite the trauma they have experienced, the family they had to leave behind in Afghanistan, and the adjustments to be made, they are truly delightful and incredibly grateful. I had no idea what to expect when this began, and I can only tell you that despite the red tape, the bureaucracy, and information overload that we have waded through, this is a moving experience and a relationship that I know that will continue and deepen over time. I hope to bring the Yadgari family here to TIOH at some time in the future for them to thank you themselves. For now, they're overwhelmed and still adjusting. They've only been here for 3 weeks, by the way. I want to thank my Circle team. Ada Gorn, who's done the nurturing task of accessing food pantry services, food budgeting, and providing their first welcoming meal. Allison Dworetsky, who's handling the education piece for Imran and ESL classes for Nargis. Helene Ross, who is our in-house therapist when and if needed. Alana Cohen, social worker extraordinaire, who has taken care of accessing the family's benefits, which is no small feat if any of you have ever dealt with the Department of Social Services. Phyllis and Ira Klein, who are on the housing team and put together the Amazon wish list, which got them most of the stuff that filled up, made their lives be ready to begin here. And Jody Litvak on the housing team, who put together transportation information and got them their Metro passes. I also want to thank Highest for always welcoming the stranger and being there for all Jewish immigrants and all immigrants, starting 130 years ago, beginning with helping Jewish refugees escaping the pogroms of Europe. I also want to thank Sophie Sartain, Andrea Rothschild, and Jamie Rubin for all of their assistance and support. I also want to give a shout out to Hangout Do Good for their donations and time. and many of our memberships are overlapping in those groups. Okay, now for what can be done. If anyone is interested in getting involved, we would definitely welcome the help. There is a lot of reference material, webinars, and workshops with lots of information and resources to get started and help with joining the team. Legal assistance from the standpoint of keeping track and of process of information would be most helpful. Pro bono immigration legal services would be a dream. As we all watch the catastrophe unraveling in Ukraine and see the pain being inflicted on Jews and non-Jews alike, I hope we're ready to do this again, and I encourage us to do so. It does take a village, and at TIOH, we have an incredible one.
Wow, yasher koach to everyone. Thank you, Aaron and Mitra and Francine. And it's so fitting that we then are closing our service with Aleinu. Aleinu is about the time to come when we will all recognize that we're all connected, that we're all one, that this world can be a place of God's home. We rise, Aleinu. Page 282. Remain standing if you are remembering a yahrzeit, and take a seat for a moment if you're not, or if you're in the year of mourning or shloshim. This week we are remembering the yahrzeits of Ruth Ellen Anker, Esther Aronowitz, Stephen Berlin, Maria Bertram, Shirley Bloom, Daniel Borston, Nina Bruck, Duralis De Payalo, Joseph Fredman, William Dennis Garvey, Philip Goldhammer, Neil Hoder, Henry Holofcener, Annie Kastner, Beatrice Coppell, Agnes Kuhn, Herbert Lanowski, Joseph Lesser, Samuel Levine, Max Melmed, Paul Mueller, Leonard Nimoy, Albert Raven, Jack Rosenthal, Keith Sachs, Melvin Shakora, Betty Sugarman, Jim Tyre, Avram Wasserman, and Pauline or Pat Zebker. And during this past month, we've laid to rest Glenn Benton, Marianne Consolo Reisler, and Julian Mandel. And also, we're still in the first year of mourning. Anyone else that I didn't mention? Yes, Susan's father as well. And we ask the mourners to lead us in Kaddish on page 292. You can rise to help support the mourners as they lead us. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divrach hirutei v'al michmalchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayet kol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala ubizman kari v'imru.
Amen.
Yehi shmei rabba mevarach le'olam ome'al maya. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudashah. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru.
Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, yaseh shalom aleinu, oseh shalom.
You may be seated. Yeah, before the. So we have a few announcements before we're going to invite up our social justice core team back up here to close us out with Kiddush and Motzi. The first of which, if you are indeed a new member, right after we're done with services here, you are going to meet Leah, hello there, and Zach right in the back. They've got a special treat for new members. So please, after the service, find Leah and Zach at the back of our room here. Purim is coming up. We are in the month of Adar. Purim is coming up, and we have two incredible experiences happening. We have a night in Shushan on Wednesday, March 16th. Tickets are selling like hotcakes. All right? Trust me. You'll want to get in on this. It's going to be
They're
amazing.
selling like Hamantash.
Like Hamantash. And we've got a lot of great things planned for you all that evening. You don't want to miss out. And then on the Sunday, March 20th, Family Purim. It's going to be in the afternoon. It's going to be lovely. It's going to be a little different this year. All right? But it's still going to be amazing. We have a social justice project. We have two incredible bands. We got Beat Buds. We got Opium Moon. It's free. Just show up. It's going to be amazing. All right? Next up, we have, if I were to tell you the name Morton Subotnick, what would that mean to you? Not a whole lot. But if I were to tell you the other name he goes by, the godfather of techno, you're intrigued, right? I think so. So, arts and culture on Thursday, March 31st. Come here and see what the godfather of techno is all about. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a lot. We have also on Friday, April 1st, Phil Rosenthal, Lily Rosenthal, 2 TIOH members, incredible people, here to kick off our Shabbat Speaks, our TIOH Speaks series. It's going to be amazing. Great stories, great food. Please join us. You can visit our website to sign up, and please come talk to us if you want to learn more about that. And, Rabbi Mari.
Thank you, Rabbi Calvin. If you are an adult who did not have the opportunity for any reason to become bar or bat mitzvah in your young teen years, and if you are an adult who did have that opportunity, but it's been a little while, and you might like to revisit the opportunity of reading Torah, please join us for a course that's going to be about a year and a half, starting this April. We're going to learn Hebrew, we're going to learn Torah, we're going to dive deeper into our Jewish lives, we're going to have a wonderful time, and next December, we're going to celebrate you. So please sign up and please join us.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you. So if you are part of our social justice core team, we'll invite you back on up here to offer the blessing over the great beverage that we have, Kiddush. Welcome back.
It's on. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu. Shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, ki lanu b'charta, eltanu kidashta, Mikol hamim b'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat lechaim.
Allison, uncover.
And now the blessing over our challah.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz
v'te'avo.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ולדורם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ולדורם. בני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ולדורם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני